Hey everyone, it's John. Today I'm going to share with you a gig horror story. It's kind of funny that most of the gig stories that you hear are horror stories, but a real lot can be learned from them. And this is something that I think is very valuable information for especially young players that are looking to get into the music business because this is how it is sometimes. So a couple weeks ago, I got hired sight unseen for a rock gig. It was a Halloween gig. I actually got hired for two gigs, 2 Saturdays in a row. And I had 2 days to learn about 2 hours and 30 minutes worth of material. And a lot of the stuff was like AC/DC and Ozzy Osbourne and, a Sublime tune in there. It was a variety of things, but mostly just rock. And so in talking to the band leader, and actually once I got hired, a trusted friend called me and said that this band leader had a reputation for not being professional. Take the gig but make your money and leave. So the band leader told me about this band master list. It's a list of songs that they as a band had been learning and working on for the past 5 years or so. And so she posted it online. I looked at it. It was a very substantial list. It was about 130 to 150 songs. And seeing as how I had 2 days to learn the material, I just told her that I would do the best I could, that I would learn what I could, put it on a list, and then give it to her and the rest of the band, and then that would be, what we have to work with. Now keep in mind, I had never met these people, never seen them before, never played with them before. I didn't even know what they looked like, okay? Not until we connected on Facebook. So in 2 days I learned a lot of music, and I presented the list. And it should be noted that in the Facebook page there were 20 members of the band, which means that it's a rotating lineup, and this band leader had a reputation of not keeping a band together because of conduct and unprofessionalism, etc., etc. So I presented the list, and it was approved. It was like, here are the songs that I know, and this is what we have to choose from for the night. So fast forward to the gig, things are going well. The band sounds good. Everyone's nailing their parts. It sounds really, really good. And then maybe 15 songs into the set, the band leader, who was also the vocalist, starts calling tunes that were not on my list. Just not at all. She pretty much ignored my list for the entire rest of the gig. So how did I get through that gig? Well, thankfully I have pretty good ears, so that helped a lot. But what I had to do was stand there and listen. And sometimes I could sort of kind of get a guitar part from the other guitar player if I could glance at him and see his hands. So sometimes that helped, but mostly it was just ear, I had to stand there, wait till the chorus before, and listen before I could jump in. So for every song, I was probably playing only 70% or 60% of the song. Especially when it comes to songs with bridges. I mean, you have to get it like this, and the bridges go very quickly. So that didn't help either. So all in all, I still think the gig was a lot of fun. Now afterwards, like I said, I was hired for 2 performances, and an advertisement came up by the band leader, posted by the band leader on Facebook, and she had tagged a bunch of people in the band, but I wasn't one of them. She had tagged the guitar player from the previous week and a different guitar player. So what does that tell me? It tells me that she decided that I wasn't going to play the gig. More importantly, she didn't tell me I wasn't playing the gig, even though we had agreed it was going to be the 2 consecutive Saturdays. So I sent her a text, and I was just very upfront and very professional, though. And I said, essentially, what's up with the Facebook post? Am I not playing the gig? And she said, well, if you still want to play the gig, you have to tighten things up, because just because you know the main riff doesn't mean you know the song. And look, I have plenty of experience to know when I'm playing well and when I'm not playing well. And the considering that we're pasting together a band with 2 days before the gig, it went extremely well. And so I told her that she had called songs that were not on my list pretty much the entire duration of the concert, and I had to stand there and use my ear and figure them out on the spot. And that put me in an awkward position because for the first, minute to a minute and a half, minute and 45 seconds of each song, I had to stand there, just standing there, in front of an audience. And it looks bad, it makes everybody look bad. And I think there's a lesson to be learned in that too. I think a lot of people think that it's all, you have to get rid of ego in music to succeed, especially when you're playing in a group, because it's not just about you. It's just like a baseball team. A team makes up the unit, and you're only going to be as good as the sum of your parts. So you want everybody to look as good as possible. And at least just not, just standing there not doing anything, but what choice did I have? Luckily, my ear is good, and I was able to get through the gig. I also told her, though, that her judgment of my performance is really unfair considering what I just told you. And, she didn't acknowledge the fact that she had picked songs that were not on the list of songs that I learned. It's about taking ownership of what you do, admitting your mistakes. And that's something that a lot of amateur musicians do. They're so insecure about their own performance that they point fingers at everybody else and say, what you did was bad. What you did was bad. That's just what they do. It's insecurity. And I am empathetic about that, but I can only be empathetic for so long before it's like, it might be some deep-seated issue or something that maybe she's dealing with, this insecurity issue, and that's cool. We all have our things, but you can't just take that out on other people, especially just being completely irrational, especially when you're, you're in a band situation like that's pieced together. You can, you kind of hope for the best sometimes. Sometimes you play great, and sometimes you just don't. That's how it works. So instead, she said to me that I was supposed to learn the master list. Well, the thing is, if she wanted me to learn 75 tunes, 65 tunes a day, she should have paid me a lot more. I just told her, you know what, I'm not doing the gig. I mean, if you had some kind of issue or didn't want to, if you didn't want me for the gig, you should have told me, because that's how it just works in any business. If you're expected to be somewhere, you go somewhere and you show up on time and, prepared and all of that, prepared and punctual. And also, if you no longer need somebody to be at that place, you need to let them know so that they don't just show up, because this gig was about an hour south of where I live now in Illinois. So I guess the moral of this story is that you have to know when to step down from a gig. Say yes to pretty much everything, especially if you're like a really young musician just out of college or you're in college. Say yes to every single gig, whether it pays or not. And it might be a really unideal situation for you, but you'll never know where it could lead, and you definitely need that experience. I mean, even I still need that experience too. So I suppose the moral then is don't be afraid to say no, and expect others to function at a level of professionalism that you are functioning at. So anyway, till next time.